Here's what they don't tell you about buying a private jet in 2026. You don't need to spend $20 million on some plastic composite toy to get across the ocean safely. There is a reason why pilots call this specific machine the tank. It's not the fastest, it's definitely not the prettiest, but if you skip this video, you might end up blowing 3 times the cash on a jet that can't even handle half the payload this legend can. So, we are looking at the Hawker 900 XP. By 2026 standards, this thing is technically a dinosaur. Production stopped way back in 2012. But here is the crazy part. Looking at the used market right now, demand for this specific airframe is actually holding steady. Why? Because they simply don't build them like this anymore. We are going to rip this plane apart, figuratively speaking, category by category. We will look at the performance, the cabin reality, the cockpit tech, and the hard cash numbers you need to know for 2026. If you are a business owner or just someone obsessed with aviation, you need to understand why this old-school metal bird is still bullying newer jets off the ramp. Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes, performance. When people talk about Hawkers, they talk about weight. This aircraft is built from traditional aluminum alloys, and it feels heavy because it is heavy. But that weight translates to stability. Turbulence that would toss a light jet around like a salad barely registers in a 900 XP. Under the hood, or, well, on the tail, you have 2 Honeywell TFE731-50R engines. Now pay attention to that 50R part. That was the game changer. The older Hawkers, like the 800 XP, were great, but they struggled when it got hot and high. If you tried to take off from Aspen on a summer day, you were leaving passengers or fuel behind. The 900 XP fixed that. These engines pump out about 4,660 pounds of thrust each. That doesn't sound like a lot compared to a Gulfstream, but for a mid-sized jet, it's exactly what the doctor ordered. In 2026, where we see a lot of paper planes that claim high specs but fail in real-world conditions, the 900 XP delivers. You're looking at a maximum cruise speed of about 448 knots. That's roughly Mach 0.80. Is it breaking the sound barrier? No. But will it get you from New York to LA? Actually, yes, depending on the headwinds. The official range sits right around 2,800 nautical miles with 4 passengers. Realistically, if you load it up with 8 people and their Gulf bags, you're looking at more like 2,500 nautical miles. But that is still enough to do London to Cairo or Teterboro to Van Nuys without stopping for gas 90% of the time. And here's the number you need to care about: 41,000 feet. That is the service ceiling. Why does that matter? Because the weather and the commercial airliners are usually stuck down at 35,000 or 36,000 feet. The 900 XP can climb directly to 41,000 feet after takeoff. You get above the traffic, you get above the bad weather, and you save fuel. The climb performance on this thing compared to the older 800 series is night and day. It goes up like a rocket because those 50R engines maintain their thrust better at higher altitudes. It's not just about going fast, it's about getting to the smooth air faster than the other guy. Now, let's move inside. This is where the age starts to show a little bit, but it's also where the value is. The cabin volume is 604 cubic feet. The dimensions are crucial here. It is 5 feet 9 inches tall. I'm gonna be real with you. If you're 6'2", you're going to be hunching over. It's technically a stand-up cabin, but only if you're average height. However, once you sit down, it's a palace. The cabin width is 6 feet. That's wider than a lot of the newer jets in this category. That extra width means the seats are wider, the aisle is decent, and you don't feel like you're rubbing shoulders with the person across from you. Standard layout usually seats 8 passengers. You have a 4-place club section up front, and then usually a 3-place divan in the back with another single seat. That divan is a lifesaver on long flights. You can actually lay down and nap. Try doing that in a Learjet 60 without cramping up. One thing I have to point out is the baggage situation. This is the Hawker's Achilles heel. It has about 50 cubic feet of baggage, but it's all internal. There's no external baggage door. That means the pilot has to haul your bags up the stairs and shove them into a vestibule by the door. If you bring massive hard-shell suitcases, you're going to have a bad time. You need to pack soft bags. But the flip side is you have access to your bags during the flight. Need your other jacket? It's right there. You don't get that in a jet with a tail cone locker. Also, let's talk about the lavatory. It's fully enclosed, usually belted, which means it counts as a legal seat for takeoff and landing. It's decent sized. In 2026, having a solid private lavatory is a non-negotiable for most buyers, and the 900XP covers that base well. The fit and finish in these jets were done by Beechcraft when they were at the top of their game. Even 15 years later, the woodwork and the leather in these used models usually hold up incredibly well, because, again, they built this thing like a tank. Up front, we have the Rockwell Collins ProLine 21 avionics suite. Now, for the pilots watching, you know what this is. For the business owners, let me explain. It's not the newest touchscreen 3D vision system you see in a brand new Bombardier. It's got 4 big LCD screens, it's button heavy, but it's robust. In 2026, ProLine 21 is still completely capable. It handles modern navigation requirements, it has WAAS LPV capabilities for precision approaches, and it's incredibly reliable. You aren't dealing with software bugs that ground the plane every other week. It's a workhorse system. The 900XP also comes with IFIS, which basically means electronic charts. No more paper maps cluttering up the cockpit. It has a decent weather radar that can spot turbulence. The workload for the pilots is manageable. It's certified for single pilot operation in some contexts, but you're almost always going to fly this with a crew of 2. The important thing here is maintenance support. Since Rockwell Collins is everywhere, finding parts for these screens in 2026 is still relatively easy. You aren't buying a weird orphaned aircraft where one broken screen grounds you for 3 months. That's a huge factor when buying a used jet.
Alright, open your spreadsheets. This is why you clicked the video. What does this cost you in 2026? Back when these were new, they cost around $16 million. Today, in 2026, you can pick up a pristine Hawker 900 XP for somewhere between $3.8 million and $5.5 million. Let that sink in. You are getting a transcontinental mid-sized jet for less than the price of a new turboprop. But the purchase price is only the entry fee. The real cost is keeping it in the air. The operating costs are where you need to be careful. This is a metal airplane, not composite. It burns fuel. You are looking at burning roughly 230 to 250 gallons per hour. At current jet fuel prices, that adds up. For a typical owner flying 200 hours a year, your total annual budget, including hangar, insurance, pilot salaries, and fuel, is going to be roughly $1.2 to $1.5 million. The direct operating cost, DOC, is sitting around $3,200 to $3,500 per hour, depending on where you buy gas and how you handle maintenance. Speaking of maintenance, there is a big gotcha you need to watch out for: the landing gear overhaul. It happens every 12 years. If you are looking at a 900 XP in 2026, check when the gear was last done. If it's due next year, you need to knock $150,000 to $200,000 off the asking price immediately. Do not ignore this. Also, check the engine programs. You want these engines on MSP Gold, Maintenance Service Plan. If the engines aren't on a program, run away. An overhaul on a TFE731 can cost nearly $1 million. You do not want that bill. But if you find one that has good bones, good engine programs, and decent avionics, the value proposition is insane. You are getting 80% of the capability of a $20 million jet for 25% of the price. Who is the Hawker fighting against? The main rival is the Cessna Citation XLS Plus. The XLS Plus is a great plane. It has better runway performance on really short strips, but it doesn't have the range. The XLS Plus is a coast-to-coast plane only if you stop for fuel. The Hawker 900 XP does it non-stop. Then you have the Learjet 60XR. The Lear is a rocket ship. It climbs faster and flies higher, but the cabin is tiny. It's a tube. If you have claustrophobia, don't buy a Lear. The Hawker feels like a living room compared to the Learjet. Then there's the Gulfstream G150.
The G150 is actually faster and has great range, but the cabin shape is weird. It's oval, so you lose headroom on the sides. Plus, Gulfstream parts come with Gulfstream prices. Hawker parts are expensive, but they aren't Gulfstream expensive. So here's the verdict for 2026. The Hawker 900 XP is not the newest kid on the block. It drinks a bit more fuel than the modern stuff. The baggage loading is a pain in the back, literally. And if you're tall, you'll have to duck. But it is built like a fortress. It has the range to save you a fuel stop, which saves you 2 hours of travel time. It has a cabin that is wide enough to actually conduct business in, and most importantly, it allows you to enter the mid-size jet market for under $5 million. In a world of fragile composites and overhyped tech, the Hawker 900 XP is a piece of heavy metal that just works. It's the tank of disguise. If you want flash, go buy a Phenom. If you want to get 8 people to a meeting 2,500 miles away without breaking the bank or fearing a little turbulence, this is your bird. It's the best bang for your buck in the sky right now, period.